Holly with Stella Mari's Quilts. Welcome to our series on 50 blocks for 50 states. As we work through the designs from this book, check out the description box below for more information about that, as well as the link to get the pattern that we have written for the block we're working on today, which is the state of Michigan. So let's go ahead and grab our cup of tea and get started. The Michigan block is built out in 4 triangle quadrants that are built individually, kind of like a log cabin. So we're going to start by taking a strip of 1.5 inch wide by width of fabric, and we're going to cut a few triangles to start from. That'll be our centers. I've got my strip lined up on this line of my mat and the 45-degree line. Go ahead and just trim off the end here so I have a nice 45-degree. And then I'm going to use the 45-degree line on my ruler, which is going to go right here. Line up the edge with that 45-degree line. And I'm going to scooch this over so that the point is at the edge of my ruler here. And then I'll go ahead and cut. That'll give me my first triangle. I need 4 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and then just rotate this around so that I have my 45. Might be easier if I do it this way. My 45-degree line here, and I'm going to rotate, scoot it down so that my point is at the edge of my ruler, and I'm going to cut down that way. Another thing I could do is if you've got a squaring tool like a Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer, this triangle is just your typical right angled triangle here. So without using any clear measurements, I could line this up and then just trim and rotate and trim. You're going to need 4 of these, and these will basically be the centers of our quadrants, or where we're building out from. This measures across the base here as 3 inches, and it's 1.5 inches tall. So now that I've got my 4 starting points cut, we're going to start building out our quadrants. And I'll demonstrate with 1 quadrant, but you're going to do the exact same thing with all 4. I'm going to take, for round 1, I'm going to take my light. I'm going to line it up so that my corners meet up here. I'll fold this over. I'll probably actually start on this side. I'll fold it over, and then I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam down here, and then I'll press back, and then I'm going to trim this straight. So we have the first side sewn on, and we're going to go ahead and just trim off the extra fabric here by lining our ruler up with the edge of the triangle. And then just trimming that off. The next step is to do the same thing on the next side. So I'm going to just put another light strip down here. This time I'll probably sew from this side. And I'm just going to sew down the side. I have not pre-cut many of these strips. These are kind of extra strips from other parts of this series. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to sew this one down And then after I've trimmed this, I will go ahead and put another one down. I just need to make sure that I leave enough space so that when this is pressed back and trimmed, I have space to trim before I have the next one down. That way I can try and maximize my strips as much as possible. So now I've got that second side on there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just finger pressing back. So just you can press with an iron, but remember you're just pressing. You don't want to stretch any of this out. And then I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to trim straight along the edge here. And row 1 is complete. Now we're going to build out the next row. It's very much the same. We're going to start on one side. We're going to add our medium fabric. We're going to sew down from that corner, press it back, and then add the next row. Screw that side on. Now we're going to do the same thing on the remaining side. I'm just going to line that up, probably sew from this side just to make sure I know where I'm going. Sew down the side, press it back, and then we'll trim even with the edge of the triangle. And here's that round 2. We're going to do the same thing where we're going to just trim off the excess fabric. I'm going to make sure that I'm staying very straight. We've got 2 more rounds to go. We're going to do 1 more round of light and then 1 more round of the medium, and I'll get that done and bring them right back. Now it's time for the last round. So each one of these rounds, the strips are 1 1/4 inches. For the final round, we're going to use our dark, and this is going to be, I think it's 1 3/4 inch. Yes, 1 3/4 inches wide. So we're going to do the same thing to add it to what's existing. We're going to just take what we have. I'll trim the selvage off, but then I'm going to just sew down on this right side of the triangle, my dark, and then I'm going to use a light for the left side of the triangle, using the same construction method we've used for each one of these rows that we already have. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and bring it back. And here's the finished quadrant for the Michigan block. So now we're just going to rotate all of our quadrants around. To form the block. And we'll go ahead and sew this together, basically like a triangle 4 patch essentially. So I'll sew these 2 together like down here, these 2 together down this side, and then I'll sew the 2 sets together down the center. And here's the Michigan block. You might be able to see on mine, my trimming of my sides didn't come out very well. A few tips about doing those trimmings that I figured out kind of as I went along. This angle right here to cut, these right here, that's a 45-degree angle. So if you're using your ruler to line things up, you should be able to, let me see if I can get a ruler that you can actually see the lines. This one might work. You should be able to match up the points of your squares that are on your ruler that mark your inch blocks there along one of the edges of your fabric. And so that when you're going to do the trimming, if you're trimming here, the points are lining up along the edge here, and then do your trim. That'll help keep this edge a little straighter, as well as keep the angle out at the end at the 45-degree that we're going for. Because mine's not perfectly straight, it's not finishing at the 12.5 that it should finish. So I'll probably trim this down to about 12 1/4, just so I can straighten out all of those edges. But there you go. That's Michigan. Thank you for joining me today working on the state of Michigan. This was fun doing something that's kind of log cabin, but not quite, with it being on triangles versus squares. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and continue watching as we journey through all 50 states. Until next time, cheers and happy quilting.